Welcome, F5 community, to DevCentral Connects. I am Aubrey King with DevCentral, of course, and I'm going to be your host today, where we've got a fantastic show. So this show today is going to be about our cloud-native network functions. So I had a chance to sit down with Jeanette Herr, who is one of our business development architects over in Service Provider, and she showed me some really, really cool stuff. So I'm going to bring on Jason and Jeanette in a couple of minutes. But before we do that, I wanted to show you the actual installation and configuration of an F5 Cloud-Native Network function. And we're going to chat about it. So stick around.
Okay, so this is the process to install the CNF once you have all the pieces in place. Here's your tar file, and here's your YAML file, right? And so what you'll do is...
And now the tar file is a tar of the actual software, yes?
Yes,
okay,
exactly. This is your complete command. You have F5 install, the name of the deployment that you want to call it. This is your tar file, and then the YAML file with the ingress values, and then your namespace.
Okay.
And then it takes a little bit of time, and then you see that it is installed, and you go see get pods. And here you see these guys running. This is a light install because it does not include the FluentD and IPSD. Those are all for managing telemetry to be exported. This is just running the basic of CNF, and the AFM portion is the policy that can be edited to include whatever ACLs and restrictions or blocking that you want.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. That will do the installation.
Where would someone edit the policy?
You're through the YAML files you can edit.
Okay.
So let me see. Let's see if you can. So here you've got your TMM and the image repository that you want to specify. This can be changed depending on where you have your local repository. You can actually, if you have multiple versions, you can change the versioning on there. These are your CPU settings that you want to specify how many cores and what the memory is. And then, other variables like the huge pages, fluent bit, we pretty much disabled it because we're not utilizing it for this particular demo. And these are, again, more variables like the CNI networks that you're going to be specified that's used within this particular deployment. These are all cert keys, the secret keys that you're setting to be used for the deployment. As you can see, we kind of commented all of this out for the network portion, which you'll have to specify depending on what your network setup is. Here is your AFM details. It's basically, it's a default accepting all traffic. This is obviously editable, and then that's pretty much it for the deployment. There are custom resources. So the custom resource file is also where you can specify the particular rules. So all these files are going to be your SRIOV configuration settings. These are going to be your VLAN settings. So let's look at this particular one, BigNet VLAN. I'll explain to you what's in there. This is where you specify, you define your network node policy, and then you define your network attachments. So this is where you're going to be specifying what interfaces that you're going to be using. As you can see here, these are preset within the network node policies, and you're just basically assigning it to your deployment which interfaces that you're going to be using, and then what self IPs that you're going to be assigning to your nodes. So if you have 3 instances, you assign 3 IPs. You can have a pool of IPs that you can it can pick from. In this particular deployment, we decided to specify each of the IP addresses because we needed to be able to control that for the SciPerf testing and the pairs that were assigned to each of the pods.
Okay.
Here is where the firewall policies are specified. Oh, that's not the one. This is the one. There's a couple of versions because we did a number of different deployments. So here you can specify the rules here, however you want to define them, specific, ACLs if you're referencing external. I honestly don't know how, if you're going to have a list that's going to be dynamically changed, and then there's other files. This is what we would consider the virtual server definition from a traditional big IP stance. And it's called the context secure. And you can see here the destination address is it's listening on these 2 particular interfaces.
And this is all YAML?
And then, this is all YAML. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Why do you smile like that?
That's just so cool to see. Like, I'm used to seeing big IP VIPs denoted with TMSH, so
yeah.
YAML is just it's a new thing. That's neat.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one is your static routes. Here we didn't really have any routes because we only had 1 pipe in, 1 pipe out, right? Okay. So it's really, you have 0, 0, 0, and then your default gateway. It's not really very complex, so nothing to worry about. But those are the 4 critical files that you would have to apply before you actually do the Helm install.
Okay.
They'll be unique to each of the deployments. You can tailor them to each of the deployments. So like I said, you can have deployments in different namespaces with different policies, different routes, so on and so forth.
So I hope you enjoyed that. That for me was absolutely thrilling. It was great not just catching up with Jeanette for the first time in a while since, pandemic, but it was just really cool for me to see, all of these, these big IP portions of the VIP, AFM settings and things like that, all specified in YAML with, no UI, so to speak, at all. So I am going to bring on my co-host, Jason, today. Jason, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing fantastic, and coming in blind to that, I have so many questions, and so that's good.
Yeah, well, hey, it's always good to see some new things, and we have another shocker actually coming up in a couple minutes as well. But before we even get any further, I did want to recommend that everybody check out community.f5.com as well. If you don't have a login and password, it's free. We don't track any of your utilization and things like that. We just make sure that you have resources to absolutely everything that you need to make your F5 experience a little bit easier day to day. So, that's the kind of place where I would think, Jason, we would have, things like, YAML and such coming back up in our code share. So
yeah, I mean, for certain, as our technology changes and evolves, our code share will do the same. So
yeah, we've seen it a couple times already in the past few years, but I did want to bring on Jeanette as well, just to kind of speak to this. So Jeanette, how are you? How's New Jersey?
New Jersey is actually really beautiful today. It's been the perfect fall weather. Everything's super colorful and bright and like low humidity, 60s, 70s, perfect for activity. Pickleball,
It's been amazing looking at some of the ocean pictures that you've been showing from that area. I used to, a while back, I used to go down to New Jersey, every week or so where I was taking care of a customer down there. I miss that beach and the
Oh yeah.
ocean.
Oh
Just
yeah.
beautiful.
Yep.
Beautiful. So I guess, real quick, I was just curious to know how things are kind of coming along. If you can tell the community a little bit about maybe the plans for CNF. Obviously, it's on our website, but when are they going to be able to kind of get their hands on documentation, installation, and things of that nature?
Right. So we're working on the documentation right now, actually, and it's GA to be in January of 2023. Right now, it is in LA stage right now for folks or clients or potential clients that want to be involved. Some of the from testing, the modules itself. That we're actually proving out on different platforms is your firewalls, CGNAT, DNS caching, and then it's going to expand out from there. Um,
PEM 2, yes, I thought I saw that.
yes, PEM.
Yep.
Yeah, there PEM's. It's in the early stages. There's still, how whether we won't provide the actual policy management. It'll be linked in with an external, like let's say PCRF in the 5G environment, for instance. Um, but right now, CGNAT, DNS caching, and firewall is the primary that's been played with mostly.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Well, that's for me, I think that's really great. As you know, I've done quite a bit with the virtual edition, but I think there's some more news that we're going to break in just 2 minutes. I wanted to say hello to the community out there. So real quick, Jason, obviously you're responding. So hello to you as well, Jason.
Thank you.
We've had a couple people pass us some notes here and there, but it's funny. I've had a couple of times where I've been on the chat a few times, and they gotta pull us on and say hello. So I'm surprised we haven't seen hide nor hair of Boo or Peter creeping in the comments today.
Now we got Peter is running research there, so he's there under the badge of F5 DevCentral for us.
That's right. That's right. Now, the other piece of news, Jeanette, right, is the partnership that you've been working on that I did reference in my teaser for this show, and I don't want to drop it, so feel free. I mean, if you want to kind of introduce what you've been working on there.
Right. So we did a partner demo at Mobile World Congress with AMD using their Milan series of processors. They are high energy efficiency, and they have different flavors. Some of them have, like, for instance, the regular Milans will have actually probably a considerable amount of more L3 memory than usual processors. I think they're at like 250 megs of L3 memory. And the Milan X's will have 760, I believe, 760 megs. Not to get too technical into it, but basically what they're going to be providing is an alternative to run your applications in a much more energy efficient manner. Everybody's really focused and aware of the energy consumption that we have and what the data centers are doing to the power grids. So it provides a good alternative to be considered.
And now, actually, speaking of some of those numbers, you provided me with a video that we ran at Mobile World Congress. I figured we could probably kind of put that up just to kind of show the community what kind of numbers we're talking about here. So, this is one of those funny ones. When you go to a convention, you see these videos kind of run in the background. Sometimes they just catch your eye, and this one for me really, really does catch my eye. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, when you're at those conventions, music's really loud and it's some kind of uns music going on in the background, like you're at a rave or something. So
Yes.
we obviously don't have much audio with these, but basically what it's illustrating is the partnership itself. We did run on OpenShift, so that is a sub partnership that's included. And the testing that we did was with Keysight that provided the testing software. It's a virtual edition of what most folks would, especially in our side, know as Ixia. And we were able to push somewhere along the lines of 3.5 to 4 million transactions per second on the two, actually 96 plus 96, I think it was 130 cores that we were running. But for this particular demo, what we're showing is essentially that rather than just a single instance of CNF that's going to be sitting in front of your cluster environment, you can have multiple instances of CNF running in front of each service to have different, specific policies that you want applied for the services that you're sitting in front
Now,
of.
and now here we've got actually two different layers of that, right? I mean, we're looking at scalable, horizontally scalable firewalling in front of horizontally scalable carrier grade net
Hmm.
in this particular example. And the funny thing is, one of the things that it took me a moment as I watched this video, noticing that the CPU, compute utilization is way lower and the packets are way greater, just to kind of illustrate what you were saying. And like Boo was saying, wild numbers, right? So these
Right.
really are wild numbers.
Yeah.
So
So if you look at the each server we built out 3 worker nodes. Each server was built with dual 2 units, so a 64 core processor and a 32 core processor. So the first 2 worker nodes had two 64 cores. Um, each core took about 200, I believe it's like 280 watts, and then, so you're looking at 560, 570 for the processors, and then you've got 4 or 5 cards that were 10, 15 watts each. So for under 700 watts per server that you're looking at, you're running this type of throughput and transaction capabilities.
now, by comparison, my VE experience was what 24 Intel cores and 96 gig of RAM or what. I mean, like huge
Hmm.
numbers, big power, SRIOV, and so
Right.
it's and here we are looking at literally the same numbers I was doing per VE, and this
Hmm.
is just in a container.
Right. And it can be all running one deployment with multiple instances of CNF, right? You could be tailoring them to having running 8 cores or 16 cores, up to 16, I think, is the maximum that's been tested. And then having separate policies in front of different services that you want it. So, it's very dynamic. It's more than just energy efficient. It gives you the capabilities to run like, multiple servers that, and in a smaller capacity with the dynamicness of to be able to assign the number of cores you want on it, the type of policy you want on it, which NICs that you want it, that kind of. So it's not anything like what you would have at VE. I mean, I guess you would see if you look at our VCMP type, but still, it's more energy efficient and dynamic than that too.
It's incredible to me, and really, again, kind of coming up on the end of this video here, this screen was kind of, it's nice because I got a chance to actually take a look at at the actual numbers and things like that, going, okay, so here's the test harness, and it's exactly what you said. um
Right.
you know here is the thermal design, and here, so it's great to see this. Now, the thing for me that I'm curious about, again, I'll ask you the same thing: when are our people going to be seeing this? When will the community have access to to AMD flavored CNF. If CNF is GA, you said what, January, right?
January, right. So we're looking at the process of getting the official support for that. So it'll probably take a few months afterwards. It's not to say that it can't run on it. It's an x86, so our software runs on is understood and able to run on the x86. Is whether we provide the official support. That's the second layer of proving out, right? Getting official stats. What we're seeing in the demo is our particulars is specific to our demo that what we're running, and it'll go through the whole process of our PTT team as well as support to get that official support on there. But when we're looking at numbers where it's a third of the usual energy usage, less than a third of the carbon footprint and BTU, you're not only affected by the less energy that you're going to be needing for your servers, but when you consider somebody who's managing a data center, you're looking at reduced cooling costs as well as the carbon footprint. So there's it's a big factor to consider.
No doubt. And I hope that there are community members furiously Googling AMD partnership in F5 right now. I did that a little bit, kind of got lost in a hole on that after you and I spoke. So
Yeah, it's amazing to see, I guess, the emotional response to the energy efficiency, because I think for a lot of people it is it's a big concern when you're looking at, you know, we're all trying to move to the eras of electric cars, but if we don't have sufficient amount of power to fuel those electric cars, we're kind of stuck, right? And I think having even data centers or the folks that are owning and you providing the data centers, whether it be the big public clouds or other factions, it's it's a big thing to consider, and it really does tap into people's emotions when you talk to them about that topic.
well, at least we know that there will be, we have the capabilities and scale to be able to drop an AFM in an electric car, right? So
Yeah, right?
that is right.
Might need it too.
Yeah, oh yeah, the way things are going. And the
Yeah.
kind of, if you're paying attention to the, the news, those kinds of things are all over the place. And I should say, speaking of the news, Jason and I actually have a little bit of news to share with you guys today. So I'm going to kind of bring up a couple of articles that we've got. And the first one I'm going to start off with is actually, this is not news, but I just thought the timing of this was very interesting as we get towards, and again, no matter what political leanings anyone has, this is an interesting article for right now as we're looking at student loan forgiveness, right? It would appear that we had actually significant breach and exposure in in the Oklahoma Student Loan Authority. I don't know if this is maybe kind of tied into what we're doing with regards to the forgiveness, but we are seeing quite a few pokes like this in the news. This is not the only unique article on this. So I think that we will, as we've announced a plan to do this forgiveness, I think you're going to find that there will be maybe a lot of fraud attempted as well. That's just a guess on my part. But this, again, you can see not news, August 31st on this article, but the timing on it, interesting to just think about as we get through there.
Yeah, I think the fraud hunters are going to be all over the student loan stuff for a while. It's like, hey, and especially they go after the people who are just outside the parameters of coverage, and so they'll play on the emotions of those who are left behind on the student loan forgiveness. So there'll be a lot of people taking advantage of there.
I think so too.
So Jake, my son, if you're watching this, don't give in, because I know you're not going to qualify.
Well, and yeah, as always, of course, keep keep your stuff safe. For me, one of the things that I did want to mention too, as just a good security practitioner, right? Having gone through the student loan process, a couple family members and things like that, sometimes you set passwords and things like that. You set up your account and you may not think about that for, an entire school year, and then log back into it to see again, and may have been breached by then. So make sure you have an account maintenance kind of thing and not using, reused passwords and things like that, password manager, et cetera, but protect those student loan accounts.
And if it's through the Fed, they do have multi-factor authentication now. So set it up.
Yeah,
Good advice,
absolutely.
definitely.
I think
Now, you had
that's
the next
that's
one
ex-
here, jumping across the pond.
Yeah, this is one of mine, and I've not that I should be surprised because I guess I'm an American, and so it's like America first. Yeah, we're the global leaders or whatever. But quite honestly, the last decade or so, Europe really has been leading the charge for taking care of people, right? With GDPR, even though it's a pain, frankly, for IT providers and website owners and whatever, it really is there to protect the people and privacy. And this Digital Markets Act also is to protect the people, to give them options, because whether it's Apple kind of locking you into, you can only install apps from the marketplace, things like locking you into the Apple chargers, they're kind of leading the way with making Apple move to USB-C. And with this, it's like, hey, you got to be able to open the doors a little bit. Now, there's challenge with that, right? Because the good of a closed marketplace is they have the control. So control isn't always bad, because there's a lot less malware running around on Apple phones than Android, just because it is a closed marketplace. So there's benefits there, but also people should have a choice. And so what this is trying to do is like big tech vendor lock-in type stuff, where you circle the wagons and don't let anybody else play. They're trying to clamp down on that. That's not a bad thing for the buyers, for us in the marketplace.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And it's funny you say that. I mean, for me, Europe has been kind of leading the charge for a long time, especially in terms of security. They were the first ones to go with 4096-bit encryption as a mandatory on shores, up in England, things like that. It's just been a very, very good charge. They were the first place I saw, fiber to the house too. That's another one. Oh my gosh. I remember the first time I was playing video games against some kid in Sweden, and, it was like he teleported. And I said, what? How is your ping time so low? And he said, I have fiber optic cable to my house, and it was 2004.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, actually, incidentally, while I'm building a house in Kansas City right now, and one of the first things on what neighborhood I was going to build in is like, is there fiber in the neighborhood? Because if there's not, there's the showstopper. That's not happening.
well, yeah, and I wish I had done the same thing. You guys should see my upload speeds. They're abysmal, and that's not good when you're uploading to YouTube like every day.
Yeah.
Kind of moving on, I think I'm just going to, give another quick one here, just to notify everyone. We do talk about some of the big breaches as they happen. This one coming up on the holiday season, this is tough timing, I think, but Bed Bath & Beyond. So, as happens, an employee fell for a phishing attempt and ended up giving credentials, etc., which ended up in a complete breach, with some, it would appear, some exfiltration. But all of the investigating is not done on this one yet. So if you are a Bed Bath & Beyond shopper, watch your stuff. That's all. And on that note, actually, boy, look at the time. Time flies when you're having fun and looking at cloud-native network functions. So I think I want to probably say to everyone, do not forget to click like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content that we've got here for you and every week. Of course, go sign up for an account on community.f5.com if you don't have one already. And if you do have one, please consider contributing. We love content from our community, and we really love to have articles. If you need help writing an article, please feel free to reach out to myself, and I'm going to offer up Jason as well because he's an article master. And if you want help making a video, whatever, we do that stuff too. So
And get
definitely
MFA.
use the
MFA
community.
for everything.
Yes.
An MFA, yes. And thank you also, Jeanette, for popping by this week. It's great to see you.
Good to be here. Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess with that, I will bring this show to a close and say thank you very much, F5 community, for joining us today. We hope to see you next week.
One of the things that I've been talking a lot about today is just been APIs, API security, and specifically a couple different use cases where they didn't own all their infrastructure. A couple of potential customers talk about problems they have with their cloud-based infrastructure talking to their customers over APIs. How can they secure it? So pure and simple, I said, do they use Big IP today? Yes. All right, we'll investigate whether or not the WAF on the system can already do that, which of course it can policy. But the more interesting use case was simply saying, I want to deploy some new infrastructure, but I need it to be small at the customer. And I said, do you use Nginx? They said, yes. So, okay, well, with Nginx Plus, built-in API policy to start with a very simple, easy to manage security policy. And maybe you grow over time into a cloud, F5 distributed cloud. What does that do? They asked, well, say, you can do the same thing, but there's a built-in CAN policy for API security, and you can go right there. So just having that discussion on on-prem, in-cloud, managed cloud for the same solution was really interesting. So I had a lot of talk about that this morning.
Well, thanks for checking out that video. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. While you're down there, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. You might want to check out one of these videos over here. And if you haven't already, go check out community.f5.com. This is where all the DevCentral Connects hosts hang out, as well as the rest of the community. It's free to sign up, and we'll see you there.